Well, go live now. And we are live. You want to get to the mic or something?
Do I need that?
Why not?
Okay.
Come on, get on stage.
I don't like cameras. I'm nervous just thinking. Good day, I'm feeling good, and nobody should.
You walk miles.
How do I do this?
You just point it toward your face and speak it to it. I think it is live.
Always a camera. It's going? Can you hear me?
Uh,
Are you now?
Hello,
Yep.
hello?
all good. Yep,
Yeah?
we can hear.
Okay. I wrote something down, 1.5 minutes. And, thank you for coming. You know, of course, I'm glad you're here.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. And first and foremost, we're human beings. We're sharing this earth together. There's too much separating us, and it's all ridiculous. Now here we are, united as citizens in our city. And we're here because we know so many things just are not right. We need to leave here tonight feeling empowered, empowered as citizens, knowing we are one, going to stay united, 2, know how to do things differently as citizens, so we can be part of the change. In one way or another. Yes, I'm nervous. And then 3, back to number 1. Go together again to become even stronger, united citizens. We are all fortunate to be here with each other. Look around. It's okay, take a second, look around each other. We all have different styles, clothing, hair, because we're all different, with different viewpoints, opinions, and ideas. We all learn something new every day. This is how we do it, by listening to each other, all along knowing we're all different. We live in the United States of America, showing being united in a city of brotherly love. We all heard, we just need to get on the same page. Well, we are now, because we all agree we need a better quality of life in Philadelphia. So let's do it. Thank you for being here. Thank you. And I'd like to begin with Mr. Peruto, with everything, with the city of Philadelphia. Nothing in particular, but thank you for being
here.
If you can speak in the mic, would be.
I'm speaking to the mic. Thank you for having me. And I have resorted to bribery. I bought shirts for everybody. I'm running for office of the district attorney. People have to understand that is the chief law enforcement officer in the county of Philadelphia. I'm not running for public defender. Some of my liberal friends over here, who I'm going to tease before, during, and after my speech, they have reasons to back Larry Krasner. And if you have a reason to back Larry Krasner and it's legitimate, I don't quarrel with you. What I'm saying is Larry has never left the public defender's office. When he has expanded the conviction integrity unit with your tax dollars, that can be perceived as a good thing. Nobody wants a wrongfully convicted person in jail. However, that's not the job of the district attorney, that's the job of the public defender. If I'm the elected district attorney and the public defender's office or a private lawyer brings me a case that's riddled with problems, I'm going to look at it. We're going to inspect it. If there's a problem, we're going to consent to a new trial. But when Larry says that X, Y, and Z were wrongfully convicted, and he lets them to plead guilty to third-degree murder for time in and then they get out. Why are they pleading guilty to third-degree murder if they're innocent? Now, I ask you, do you know the difference between innocent and not guilty? It's a world of difference. Not guilty means there's a reasonable doubt of guilt. Innocent means you didn't do it. Well, if you didn't do it, why are you pleading guilty to third-degree murder? Why are you offering somebody a plea to third-degree murder if you say that they were wrongfully convicted? Just food for thought. Quality of life crimes. That's a misnomer. You have a right to come out in the morning and have your automobile parked where you parked it. You have a right as a storekeeper after the George Floyd riots, breaking windows, stealing your wares, and then the pandemic. And then after you survive all that, to be told by the district attorney's office that shoplifting is decriminalized in the city of Philadelphia. What are we doing to our businesses? What happens when there's only one store that sells the wares you need? No competition? You're going to get jacked up on the price. People don't understand that. Now let's talk about minorities. They're getting the shaft with the Democratic administration, and I'm looking right at you. Why are they getting the shaft? Because in the black, poorer areas and Hispanic, poorer areas, when it's the only house you could afford, that house is the biggest investment you make in your lifetime. You pay for that mortgage for 30 years, and the house is still worth what you paid for it. You just got shafted because nobody wants to buy that house. Because when bullets are flying through, who wants to live there? So you got shafted. You get shafted from every end of high crime area, especially the fact that your kids could get hit with a stray bullet. Now, what I will do, and what I will promise as district attorney, is to put people in jail. Remove them from society so that the rest of us could live peacefully. I'm not saying that I'm going to put people in jail unfairly. I'm not saying that I'm going to target a certain race or a certain nationality or a certain gang. What I'm saying is, if you commit crimes, you're going to be prosecuted equally, and everybody's going to jail. And I want the word to get out. Well, where it starts. In 42 years of practicing law, I have never seen anybody get shot with a finger. You get shot with a gun. So if you want to leave your house and carry an illegal firearm, I'm not talking about if you have a permit, well, you're automatically up to no good in my eyes as the district attorney. I don't want that gun on the street. I don't want it in your pocket. I don't want it in your car unless you have a permit. So let me tell you here and now, if I'm DA, you're going to go to jail just for carrying the gun on the first offense. Not 2 bites at the apple or 3 bites at the apple. I want to know why you're carrying a gun and what you're going to do with it. If you want to cooperate, tell us where you got the gun, which you're not going to do. If you want to cooperate and tell us about other criminal activity so that we can really solve these problems with gangs, I might give you some consideration. But we're going to start with jail. We're going to start with jail. Now, why do we have so many murders? This is not rocket science.
Is there a space for question and answers, or how long is your speaking part for?
I'm definitely going to reserve time for questions and answers.
Cool, thank you.
And you'll get answers. Guns, drugs, and homicides go together. We're always going to have crimes of passion, where a husband kills a wife, wife kills a husband. That's going on since the beginning of time. Anything the district attorney does about that is going to be very little. That's got to be handled by the mayor's office with counseling, etc. But when you have drug corners, where these drug possession and drug sales, and any cop will tell you, stop any cop, any off-duty cop that you know, ask them, are you permitted to arrest open-air drug sales right now? And they will tell you no, because they're not being prosecuted, so it's been a waste of our time. That makes the drug corners, that drug enterprise, worth more money, because the profits are there and the risk is not. So now everybody wants to get on the action. It's easy money. And when you have easy money, you have people willing to fight for that easy money. And then you're going to have violence. And it's all-out war, and that's what we're having. It's not rocket science. You have to bust up these drug corners and put them in jail. Now, when is the last time any of you have gone down Kensington and Allegheny in broad daylight?
Yesterday.
It is the movie Night of the Living Dead. It is indescribable. I don't care how good you are with words. The only way you can really get the flavor of what's happening down there is to go down there. And it's unbelievable. How do you deal with these drug-addicted people? You've got to get some tough love. If you've ever gone to organizations that they've been around forever, where your son, your daughter, your brother needs help, and you care about them, you gotta get them cleaned up. I agree with this psychologist that the only way to truly fix a drug-addicted person is if they've hit rock bottom and they want to help themselves. I don't have the time to wait. I don't have the time to wait. None of these people down at K&A are going to hit rock bottom until they die, because from what I've seen, they can't get any lower. You cannot refuse to prosecute possession cases. I'm not saying put them in jail, but when you have 1.5 county prisons empty, why can't we really utilize our tax dollars, convert them to good rehabilitation centers, put the addicted in there, and let them earn their way out?
That's a federal crime.
We have so many people that come out of our area colleges that are unemployed with psychology degrees, sociology degrees that can't get jobs. Put them to work. Specialize, get them continuing courses when they already have their bachelor's in psychology and sociology, and train them as drug counselors. Bring in former addicts as drug counselors. Put these people to work and get them to work where it's overnight camp. It's a secure facility. No, they can't leave because they've been convicted of a crime, drug possession. Might not be a serious crime, but you're actually doing it for their own good. They need rehabilitation. They have not sought rehabilitation on their own. We have to do it for them. It's called tough love. If it's truly the city of brotherly love, then let's care for these people, because they're going to die. And that's somebody's son, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's brother or sister. They're going to die. So you almost have an obligation to prosecute possession crimes as the district attorney. Letting them go, you're not doing them any favors. I can go on and on and on about how I differ with Larry Krasner. I know that he has complete faith in people, that society's going to fix itself, and that other cities have a gun epidemic as well. These other cities have also elected progressive district attorneys. The root word of the word progressive is progress. Are we making progress? Do you feel as safe now as you did 4 years ago? If you don't, by electing Larry Krasner, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So why would you do that? Why would you put your stamp of approval by voting Democratic again? I'm not saying that Republicans have all the answers, they certainly don't. I'm asking you to vote Republican for this one office, this one time, because I have a better plan. I have not told you my entire plan, but if you go on PerutoForDA.com, you'll see every issue facing the district attorney is discussed on there, and what I would and would not do. Now, since I came in, I gotta teach you one more time about liberal Larry. Let's talk about the hard issues in an area like this where nobody wants to hear this. I believe in the death penalty. Nobody wants to hear that because no matter what areas I go to, everybody gets shocked, their jaws drop, like, wow, that's archaic. I'm not talking about Lynn Abraham's death penalty where she sought it every week. I'm talking about those 1 or 2 per year, or maybe none that year, that are so egregious that they call out for the death penalty. If you argue, well, nobody's going to get the death penalty even if the jury gives it to them, well, that's not my issue. I'm the district attorney. I'm here to do my sworn duty. If a governor wants to pardon them later, or let the appellate court wants to let them out, so be it. But I gotta tell you, we have to separate real, true first-degree murder from accidental killings where they're convicted of first-degree murder. There's a lot of people out there that have been convicted wrongfully. A lot of people. So there's 2 reforms that I want right now, and I want to come back to the death penalty. 1, these pretend lawyers who get court appointed to represent somebody because they're poor are not qualified for the job. So you have appeal after appeal after appeal, and then finally get reversed saying ineffective assistance of counsel. That's taxpayer dollars that just went wasted. That's a grieving widow. That's a grieving mother who's got to go through the entire process again because the person was defended by an idiot the first time. It shouldn't be. We have to pay these lawyers, which they're not doing now. I mean, pay them. Just an idea. How about if we pay them as much as a plumber? Because they're getting paid less right now. Pay them, educate them, and test them. You don't come out of law school qualified to represent somebody for murder or robbery, but that's what you're getting. And that's a true reform that's gotta be handled. One more instance before the death penalty. Everybody thinks I'm Attila the Hun, where I'm so different than Larry. I think there's several things that need to be reformed. 1, second-degree murder. I don't know if anybody here knows it carries mandatory life in prison. You go out and do your first robbery. You're with some guy you think you know. He decides to shoot the shopkeeper in the head for no reason. You already stole what you needed to steal. You guys get away. It's called felony murder. Homicide committed during the course of a felony. Enumerated felony, 1 of the 5. That kid doing his first robbery has to spend the rest of his natural life in prison. That's unfair. That's where reform is needed. I believe that on that type of life in prison, you should be eligible. I'm not saying you get it automatically, but you should be eligible after 15 years. 1, first-degree murder. There have been times when, yes, it's proven that it was an intent to kill. But when the guy's spent 30 years in jail and he's a different human being, what are we going to get out of continuing to keep him in jail after his 50th birthday, his 60th birthday, his 70th birthday? I'm not saying anything is automatic, that you're allowed to be released, but there should be stepping stones. There should be a process to earn your way out. And this has the endorsement of the prison guards because they want inmates to behave themselves. And this gives them something to work for. So that if they think they're in there for life and there's no way out, how do you think they're going to behave? You endanger those prison guards. You endanger the other inmates. Let's dangle that carrot. Let's give them that reward because everybody's worth saving. Some can't be, but many can be. So I'm not Attila the Hun in all areas. But now let's get back to the death penalty. I had a case. where my client was a rival drug dealer of the other, felt he got ripped off for 150 grand, so he kidnapped his wife. Didn't pay the 150 grand. So he sent her in the mail, back then you had mail, her fingers, and then her arms. Long story short, they eventually found her body in a drum, sealed up. That's not the death penalty? When you torture the wife of your rival to the point where she expires, and then you dump it in the front of his house? That is so depraved, in my opinion, it calls out for the death penalty. And I would seek the death penalty in that case if I were the elected district attorney. So what I'm saying to you is, you have to look at all cases individually on their own merits and not make blanket statements that I'll do this in all cases or I'll do that in all cases. You have to look at each case as a prosecutor and decide what is appropriate. And that's your job as district attorney. And if the public does not feel that that district attorney did not make the right decisions, did not act appropriately, you throw the bum out of office. You don't re-elect him. What I'm saying to you is, Larry Krasner has not performed satisfactorily to the citizens of Philadelphia. And if you give him 4 more years, it might be too late for your family. Because we've got to get these guns off the street as priority 1. You've got to give public safety the highest importance. Everything else has to take a back seat. Insurance for it, it's got to take a back seat. Everything else has got to take a back seat until we get this gun epidemic under control. And I know I'm going to have some tough questions. I enjoy tough questions. I don't shy from them. So let's have some tough questions.
To my conservative buddy, who I've known for quite some years, I know John back when I was going to looking at law school, the judge to Vina. And my brother's a retired Philadelphia police officer. And a lot of cops and soldiers in my family. One, I want to know about the Republican stance on gun control. It's easy to lock up guns once they get on the street. I want to know, are you going to prosecute not just the guy on the street or the drug dealer on the street? You're going to go after a white collar. See, my background, I taught as a white collar criminal professor. So I want to know what you're going to do about gun control, because it was your party, who you represent, that allowed guns to come on the street. First of all, let's go back to the crime bill. Okay? The explosion of assault weapons on the street happened because George Walker Bush decided to expire the crime bill in 2004. What happened? Where you had an assault rate of 37%, exploded to over 200. So let's deal with Republican issues, whereas we allow gun manufacturers to be sued, which was blocked by the Republican Party. Let's go with drugs. Recently, the court case was done by the, I forget the name of the family, but I know who it is, with prescription drugs that were going through the country, with the fentanyl, heroin, okay? The same company who made Oxycontin also makes Narcan. I don't know how many people know that.
Yeah.
They were allowed to just say, I'll pay you some money, and not take responsibility for the crime. Not take responsibilities for all the drugs being put out on the streets legally. Not crack, we ain't talking about crack cocaine, we're talking about Oxycontin that was made by this company. So we see a lot of people focus on the now after the problem has already exploded out of control. They don't go back 10, 20, 30 years and they look at one party. Now I agree. Krasner is a different animal. I've never heard of a civil rights attorney becoming a prosecutor. That I gotta give you, that's even weird to me when I first heard he was running for it, because he's a civil rights attorney, which is just being in a courtroom and is just the mentality of it, one is it just don't match. It's like an oxymoron. They don't match. But given that, see, I don't want to know what you're going to do to the poor folks, and we all know that people are human beings. If we can't get people to take shots to prevent the virus from spreading, and everybody got their personal beliefs, there's an argument about that, to save other human beings' life. We have disagreements about that. We can't get Donald Trump to admit that he lied and has been caught, 4 times lost in the Supreme Court, 65 times lost in court case, and I still have certain people still spewing the same lies. So and my point all this is making is, here's who I hold accountable to. When I hear leaders who spew the same lies as Donald Trump in order to get power and elected, how am I going to look at a politician or DA? I don't care if it's crass or, see, let's get rid of party. Let's get rid of the people in charge. If I'm a young kid, say I'm 19 or 20 years old, and I see that you can lie and cause an insurrection, and you go around walking and raising money, well, hold up. And you're not going to be held accountable. You expect me as a drug dealer to respect you?
Okay.
And you're going to talk about party?
I might ask you another question in a minute. Let me, I'm trying to remember this whole question. So you gotta give me a break here.
So
But
what I'm saying is accountability doesn't always come from the bottom, holding once the problem, once that young man or person hits the criminal justice system. I'm talking about the accountability starts 20 years and we don't address the problem, and because we all have our political beliefs, then we attack each other party to party, when we could have solved that problem 20 years prior. We didn't have to let the gun in 2004, the assault weapons ban. But see, people like to have their civil liberties the way they want it. So what do you want to do to go after white-collar criminals? Not, forget the street criminals now. I want to know what you're going to do for white-collar criminals as a
I
prosecutor.
remember everything you said. First of all, when I was first approached by the Republicans to run, I was not keen on the idea. As you know, I was a lifelong Democrat.
Yes, I do.
And people could say,
And your father.
yeah, people could say, well, Chuck, you're just an opportunist. You were a lifelong Democrat, and now you switched to Republican just to run for DA. No kidding. I'm an opportunist. This is called an opportunity. So I'm guilty of that. So, the state and federal Republican parties can be embarrassing at times. They have done many things, not some things that I disagree with, and I'm embarrassed over. Have I been embarrassed over Donald Trump? Yes. Some of the things that left his lips, I made a face like, what? So, you can't lump everybody into one basket just because they're running on that ticket. When the crime bill expired, it was terrible. But with gun control, with guns, you started out by saying the white guy and the rich guy carrying the guns.
I say white guy, say rich guy. Anybody? There's black guys who are rich. There are black guys who are rich, you know that.
Well, under my plan, more black guys will get rich because you gotta give opportunities and you gotta stop keeping people down. Keeping people down is a big problem, but let me come back. It's a big question you asked. I am not, you gotta let me finish. I'm not gonna give you an answer just to make you happy. White collar crime is gonna take a back seat with me because the gun epidemic has to be at the front, first and foremost. First, we have to get public safety under control. When I say public safety, I mean burglaries, robberies, homicides, and all comes down to guns. So I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, when you said, what am I going to do about white collar crime? I'm going to prosecute everybody equally, when it comes to this public safety issue. I have to. Because if you're reading a newspaper, you had shootings down in Rittenhouse Square. Who lives down there? Rich people. It's everywhere. We gotta remove the guns. So on that issue, I differ from Republicans. I strongly differ from Republicans. What are they gonna do to me? Cut off my money? So what? So what? This could be recorded, this could go out. I don't care. I'm not in it for Democrat versus Republican. I want to restore the confidence that people should have in the district attorney's office, that if a cop makes an arrest and he has a solid case, we present that case to a judge or jury and prosecute it. You can't take your own philosophy as a civil rights attorney and impose it on the people without a trial. Here's what I mean. For instance, this is the tough stuff that I like to touch on. Larry Krasner has a list of police officers that he will not call, do not call under any circumstances. So we've had instances, it's been exposed in the environment, where the only witness to that incident is that cop. The cop is accused of stealing something or lying on a police report or doing something with drugs in another instance. But on this day, he sees Joe Blow exiting the store with the money and the gun. And he makes that arrest. I'm going to call that cop as a witness. I'm going to prosecute that person. However, there is a happy medium you can do, and it's called the rules. If the cop has these ghosts in his closet, you disclose them to the defense. You say, here, this is fodder for cross-examination. You can cross-examine the cop on these past experiences that he's had. It's up to the jury to determine whether or not the bad guy goes free. You don't automatically set him free because you don't like the cop or you don't like what the cop has done in the past. That is imposing your philosophy of civil rights on the people who you are sworn to protect. So this do not call list has got to be trashed. What you have to have is an exposure list. This is the cop, and this is the ghost that he has in his closet. You could bring them out, and then the jury could come to their decision of whether or not the guy is guilty. And that's a big difference that I have with Larry. You cannot be the chief law enforcement officer and constantly button heads with the police department. They got to work.
The district attorney is not the chief enforcement officer. They are the lead prosecutor. They determine what prosecution.
By definition, if you look at the statute, they're the chief law enforcement officer of the county.
They are.
I guarantee it.
He's right. No, he's right. He's right. He's right. They are. That's correct.
I know this. I know what I'm running for. What I'm trying to tell you is, as the chief law enforcement officer of the county, you cannot be constantly with the name calling in the public, in the press, on TV. You guys got to work together. The police and the district attorney's office have got to work together. And if they have their differences, you got to work them out behind closed doors. This business of publicity, of trying to be a stepping stone to a higher office or getting a bigger salary down the road, it's got to stop. You got to work your problems out in private, just like anybody's got to work their problems out in private. But you have to present a united front in fighting crime, because the citizens are the ones that get the shaft when these egos get in the way. And Larry has shown us that he's got the biggest ego in the room when it comes to every other elected official that he's against. Just read about it. Can it be that Larry's right on all these things and everybody else is wrong? Just last week, even Commissioner Outlaw broke with Larry Krasner. It can't be that everybody's wrong. If you ask any, and I'm sure somebody here knows a former assistant district attorney or even a present one, ask them, ask the cop, ask them in private, off the record, what their feelings are about what Larry Krasner is doing. That's who you need to ask about law enforcement, because that is law enforcement. I'm not saying you have to take what I'm saying and just buy it. Test it. Ask them what their feelings are on his non-prosecution of several cases with shoplifting, with rioting. I represent a guy, and I know the cops, so it was kind of funny. He goes in Modell's during the George Floyd riots, and he comes out, and none of the sneakers fit him, mind you. He comes out with so many boxes of sneakers that he can't even see where he's going. Truth is stranger than fiction. He walks right into a cop. Right into the cop. I mean, into him. Now, when a cop puts in a police report that the guy walked right into me, I look at it as a defense lawyer and go, they walked right into you. And then when my client tells me, yeah, I couldn't see where I was going, I walked into the cop, I gotta laugh. This really happened. Truth is stranger than fiction. You get it from both ends. Get ready for the preliminary hearing, because that's a second-degree burglary, because it's a commercial establishment, and I get a letter. What? Huh? I get a letter. Crimes committed during the period of civil unrest, that was the quote, will be diverted. They do 10 hours of community service, and the case is expunged. These are facts. These are facts. What does my client have to do with protesting George Floyd? He's a burglar. He's a burglar. So the next time he burglarizes, that's his first offense? Is that what we're doing? I'm asking you. We have to have some common sense here. If you go back and look at Larry's history, he's always defended people in any sort of uprising or any sort of protest that they had at the Republican National Convention years back. He represented like 60 of them for free, because that's what he believes in. That's fine. But leave those beliefs at home, because you took an oath to represent the Commonwealth, the citizens of Philadelphia, not impose your own will on them. These are not protests. Protests are not illegal. You don't get arrested for protesting. And if the cops do arrest you, you should go free immediately, because it's our God-given right, our constitutionally protected right to protest. But you don't have a right to burglarize.
Can I ask you another tough question?
Yes.
Should a well, let's say any police officer, should a police officer, because he runs, who's a part of the Republican Party, okay? See, if I'm a DA, I don't care who you are. If you're a cop, if you're a citizen, because guess what? I'm gonna hire a cop, just like it was a soldier. I'm gonna hire a cop to a standard. If you break the law, I'm gonna prosecute. I don't care whether they like me or not. Period. You break, because you know what? Is this like an NCO or private? In the Army, as a soldier, guess what? That cop is like the sergeant or the captain, and the civilian is like the private. Guess what? I'm gonna prosecute them both. They break the law. I'm not your buddy when you break the law.
That's your sworn duty.
I'm not.
That's
But
your
no.
sworn duty.
But we know reality ain't that way. I'm not your buddy once you break the law. I'm on your side, like my mom used to say. My mama used to whoop me when I was wrong. I'm a job, but she whooped my behind, like the old days. And you know how that was, me growing up. My mom, and guess what? My mama didn't run to the police officer to get you if you got locked up. That was the other rule. You're wrong. You're wrong. Period. I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care if you're Joe Blow. I'm going to prosecute your ass. Period. That's it. I'm not your buddy. But I understand you got to work with cops. And that's what I'm talking about. There's times that you have to call for leadership at the top. Because if I'm on the street and a cop breaks the law and you give him favoritism, I don't respect you. That's reality. That is reality. I don't have no respect for him if you let him go. If he breaks the law, he breaks the law. If you go to a right-wing organization, get up there, and then you kill and murder someone, I don't care if you're white, black, purple, green, in front of a 17-year-old child.
I agree with you. Who could disagree?
It's murder, baby. It's murder. I don't care who you are. It's murder. Whether we're a uniform or whether you're not. It's the same standard. Justice is not always blind. I hold a master's and bachelor's and been a college professor. I taught white-collar crime and policing. Okay? We know, you know, those officers know, we all know that. We all know as adults. White-collar crime, because we know by juries. Like I give you an example. Trump has lost 65 cases across the United States, 4 Supreme Court cases, and you got fools around here saying he was cheated. That's how we can manipulate people in court. Because if leaders don't lead, they don't expect that kid who's caught up to follow the law. Because if you can't as a district attorney, let's say I vote for you and you're a district attorney. Guess what? If you do what Seth did, I knew Seth. I told you at that table, I was ashamed. I was a soldier. As a soldier, I was embarrassed. And I knew DeFino. That was like a son to him. You embarrassed his family. You embarrassed me as a black man. He was a Democrat. Guess what? He's a damn embarrassment. I will never look at him again the same way. So I don't care about whether you're Republican or Democrat. I care about the standard that you set and that you're fair across the board. If that cop breaks the law and I break the law, guess what? Black, white, purple, green, doesn't matter. He broke the law. I broke the law. We're prosecuted. I have no problem with that. I'm good.
By the way, I never did finish my sentence about white-collar crime. It doesn't mean they're getting a free-for-all. It means my priority is guns and gun violence. But we have something that's called the telephone. It's a new invention. I have the Fed's number on here too. You uncover a white-collar crime, or that's reported to you, call the Feds. That's what they do. That's what they prosecute. White-collar crime. Send the case down there. The white-collar criminal gets a target letter from the Feds. Then they run, crying, kicking, and screaming. They're busted. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect world. I am not going to represent to you now that my heart and my energy is going to put into white-collar crime in at least the first 18 months, because we got to get an epidemic under control, and you got to pick your battles.
Yeah, how you doing? Granted, Larry Krasner has a more than difficult personality, to put it mildly. But here's the thing: somebody murders someone, they never seem to find the person, the prosecutor. What is it? They solve they arrest less than 20%. I could be wrong. 20% of the folks who murder folks actually, get busted and whatnot. And so that's one thing. And two, if you arrest folks for everything, we got more prisoners than they do in communist China in our country. I mean, and so those are two things that I think a DA, working with the police department, as well as just, making some good decisions about what folks should be prosecuted, et cetera, whatnot. Because, we just load up the prisons and then folks come back worse than ever.
You actually raised 3 questions. Let's start with the first one.
Did I say 3 questions?
Well, you raised 3 topics. The first I address is the don't snitch policy, where homicide detectives are met with guys that they know something, but they're not telling. We have this beautiful tool the district attorney has that's given to them, and they don't use it. It's called the grand jury. We have not utilized the grand jury in Larry Krasner's term. I want you to research what I'm saying. It's called fact-checking. Larry Krasner does not bring in witnesses that the police know something, give them immunity, put them in front of the grand jury, and put them in jail if they still refuse to testify. Now, here's what that means. From cameras all around, Joe Blow is a witness. He's standing there when a guy gets gunned down. You're not accusing him of gunning the guy down, but he knows something. And he tells you, I was home. But you have him on video. Now, you know he's not the killer, so you can't lock him up for the murder. And you don't want to lock him up for the murder, because that's not right. But he knows something. That case can be solved. You give the witness immunity from prosecution, so they cannot plead the Fifth Amendment. And then you march them in front of a grand jury. When they still refuse to testify, you give them an option. It used to be on let's make a deal. Let's take door number A or door number B. I guess letter A or letter B. Send them to jail. Hold them in contempt of court. If they want to get out, they answer the questions. Because you cannot stand behind the Fifth Amendment when you can't be prosecuted, when you're given immunity. When's the last time you read this was done? Used to be done all the time.
You don't hear.
You don't hear it because it's not being done, and you could do some fact checking. And you could say after this, I'm not voting for Peruto for one reason, he's a big liar. Here's what they're doing with the grand jury, bang, 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 bang. You're not gonna find it. You're not gonna find it. It's not because your phone ran out of gas. It's because it's not there. So this don't snitch policy, and you're not solving these homicides and these shootings, is because you're not trying to. You're not utilizing the tools you got.
Who's
Everybody
not
says
trying to, Mr. Peruto?
the district attorney.
DA or the police department, or both?
Both.
Well, let's hold the citizens accountable for that too. Because, like my brother used to tell me when he was a cop, the people in the streets know who the drug dealers are. When that shooting went down this summer over there at Armingo and Butler, he was shot in front of 100 people in them bikes. They ran him over, shot him in cold blood, and nobody said nothing.
Nobody saw that.
Come on. So we can't always hold public officials or the police department accountable. That's why I got to take the police officer side.
That's what I'm just saying.
Okay.
Give these people immunity.
If what happened at Temple, and I'm a Temple alum, I'm pissed about what happened at Temple. Okay? Now, if we don't want to better our communities, I'm not going to. If the cop shot somebody, everybody's out there on the street. But and it was a racist crime. But hold up. How many people shot this week by cops?
Why wouldn't you hold police accountable?
Oh, I did. You heard me say I'm gonna hold everybody accountable. No, what I'm saying is this. What I said is this. I'm not gonna hold you more accountable than I am a cop, or a cop more. I'm gonna hold you together equally. But what I don't like is the hypocrisy. I want to hold Black Lives Matters. I wanted these black sororities and fraternities out there. When a black guy who I seen in the video and I have on my phone was out there drag racing and shooting up the community on Temple campus, that was my school. I don't like that. Don't tolerate it and don't believe it. No black people came out and marched. Where were you all at? Where were we all at? Excuse me, not use we, because I'm black. Where were we all at? But let a cop had shot somebody. Everybody's out in the street. So I don't want to hear the BS because it's a double standard. You're willing to prosecute cops. Guess what? Go out there in that same vigor, that same what's called when a black person shoots down a child with the same vigor. Don't sit home and say I didn't see anything. I'm tired of that double standard by black folks. So I'm gonna call out my own people.
You know that black folks who actually work out against this crime in our country.
I know plenty of them. I'm one of them.
Yeah, well, yeah.
My cousin Dwight Evans is another one of them.
Yeah.
Who's United States Congressman. That's another one of them.
Yeah.
My pastor, Reverend Oliver, is another one of them.
Yeah, I just want to integrate here with, it's not black, white, green, yellow. It's talk about accountability, but it's also common sense. You could have guns, whether it's a BB gun, a .22, or a .454 Casull. You could have a Cadillac, a Chevy pickup, or a Volkswagen. It's all about who's handling them. I can take a gun and go skeet shooting and have a wonderful day. Somebody comes breaking in my house, they're dead. Because if it comes between them breaking in my door and killing me and my family, it's good for protection. Same thing with the car. They can sit there and a good law-abiding, licensed, insured driver that's behind the wheel, it's fine. You put a drunk driver or somebody wants to go rob a bank and use it as a getaway car, it becomes a different machine altogether. So it's about accountability, yes. Doesn't matter. People say get the guns, but I understand that, but they gotta be off the street, not taken away from law-abiding, permit-carrying, people who pass the criminal background check citizens.
And you have a serial number on the gun. You have a serial number.
Well, you can't buy it any other way.
Well,
You have to go through legal process, and it's not as easy as some people
That's
think.
where you have people like guns. And guess what? If you get rid of guns, like in most countries, when you start having an epidemic of guns and you start to get rid of them, guess what you have reduced? Because it's human nature. Human nature, not everybody's, there's only one guy called Jesus Christ who was out sin. So guess what? Countries that have eliminated firearms reduce gun violence. That's statistical facts.
They also have become victims of tyrannical governments like in Australia.
That's true.
So I would rather keep my gun and protect my family.
And if it
And
ain't
then
a gun,
you have tyrannical citizens.
No, let me tell you something, because I've seen a couple officers here, they're carrying guns, and I don't know if anybody else is here carrying a gun, and that gun has not killed anybody. You know who kills people? Ignorant criminals, and they should be in jail, and that's why the district attorney is letting them loose. Not only the district attorney, but the entire liberal establishment throughout the country is letting all these criminals loose with this social agenda.
And it was the entire conservative. It was the entire conservative movement who put all these guns on the street. So blood is on your hands just as much as on everybody else. Right. Well, of course you don't want to take responsibility because it doesn't serve your purpose. The blood is on your hands. The blood is on conservative as well. And that's right. That's right. And you have a right. So the blood is on your hands. The blood is on your hands.
There's no blood
So
on my hands.
you're in. Oh yeah, the blood is on your hands.
I didn't kill nobody. The blood is on the hands of
The
the
blood is on
criminals.
your hands.
We need to hold people accountable, not society. People need to be held accountable, not society.
Right. The people who spread guns. Which conservative?
We're here tonight, let's remember, we're all.
In the back, you had your hand up all night, so.
Me?
Yeah,
So,
I'll get to you in one. You're
so
next.
my question is, I understand about getting the guns from the people that are on there, but what about looking for where they're getting them from?
That's called the grand jury.
purchases,
It's
yeah.
called the grand jury.
I
You get
understand.
caught with a gun. You know that gun was used in a homicide, because the number is not blown off where you did a ballistics test on it. And that person won't tell where they got it. They're willing to take their penalty for carrying an illegal firearm. Give them immunity. They sit in jail until they tell you.
Right, so that's what my concern is, is there gonna be pressure for them to find out where that came from?
Yes, I want to know where that firearm that killed somebody came from.
Because I spent.
And that's the way to do it. Now, people say, and I'll give you the converse argument. People say, well, now you're putting innocent people who didn't commit the crime in jail. I'm putting people who didn't commit that crime in jail. They're innocent of that crime. But under the law, they don't have a Fifth Amendment privilege like they don't in many other countries. I just removed that because you cannot use your words against you because you're not getting prosecuted because you have immunity. So I'm not putting them in jail. They're putting themselves in jail by not cooperating. If they have legitimate concerns, because this is a whole chapter where they're going to get killed or something like that, we address that, and you know how you address that. But I'm talking about somebody who wants to be this don't snitch, popular kid in the neighborhood, up-and-coming gang member, I'm not going to snitch. Okay, then go to jail and think about it. And come out when you're ready to tell us where you got that gun from.
I think my question got lost a little. Perhaps what I was concerned is there going to be a concerted effort to find out, even if they tell you where they got it from? I mean, I'm going back to my history of narcotics interdiction in the U.S. Coast Guard, okay? I watched things happen that woke me up to realize that a system that I was fighting in the early days of the war on drugs in the 80s during Reagan years was a system that was actually not doing anything to stop it from getting on the streets. And ultimately, my concern on these guns that we know are in their hands and causing and creating all these criminal activity are being fed in somewhere. I mean, I'm a legal gun owner. Every one of my guns has serial numbers. Every one of my guns is registered. Most of these guns aren't, and to find out where they're coming from, I think it's important to get it's important to get it off the streets. It's also important to get the source, because probably your source might surprise some people. I mean, when I started digging deeper into drug trafficking, I found out there was some pretty high up people who were involved in it.
And getting back to his original statement about
White
white-collar
collar,
criminals,
right.
that to me is not a white-collar crime. When you're dealing in dealing in guns, and you're the rich guy doing this on a wholesale level and putting guns on the street, that's not white-collar thing. That's a guy who's getting a ton of time because he's bringing all these guns in illegally
So I guess my question
and
is,
spreading them around. That's not white-collar. Wouldn't know what color it is. That's jail time.
okay, so I guess my concern was that we go after the essential, in essence, low-level criminal, perhaps if somebody happened to have a gun on them and wasn't registered, they weren't doing anything criminal, except they should have had it, which is criminal, I understand. But they weren't actually assaulting someone. Is there gonna be an effort put in to find out how they were able to obtain that gun and where it came from, so that maybe we can find sources
If you
that
go-
then we can break it.
If you
up.
go back to my original
Let's
statement.
have it. Thank you.
If you go back to my original statement, carrying an illegal firearm, by definition, that doesn't mean somebody with a permit with a legal gun.
Right.
But somebody carrying an illegal firearm gets a presumption of jail on a first offense. You can work that jail off by cooperating in law enforcement for the better good. Tell us where you got it. If that person is dealing in guns or can lead you to somebody else, you have to give rewards down the line. It's called using the tools they gave you. But we're not doing this. We're not doing this. You can get the guys at the top if you try.
Right.
And I want to tell you something else. Any crime that involves a gun is not a low-level crime. Yes?
So there's a pretty significant backlog for PFAs, so protection from abuse, a lot of the times that the offender will have a firearm on them, and they will temporarily lose the rights to having that firearm, correct? Now, the sheriff's office is about 18 months behind on PFAs getting presented out into the city of Philadelphia and actually pulling these firearms.
15 months behind?
18.
18.
Yep. So how can, if you are the chief of this police force, how can this district attorney's office and how can the police force support the sheriff's office in actually supporting a process and procedure that exists right now for taking guns off the streets
Okay.
that's getting neglected?
It's an easy question.
Is
Very
there-
easy. I mean, super easy.
Is there a chance I can step in for a second? Like on this one, in this particular matter?
I told you it was easy, so now
on
everybody
the-
wants to answer it.
On the PFA, because like I just had a few PFA served within the Northeast Philly. Not me personally, I'm not the cop, but police department, not the sheriff department serves them.
Right.
And when there is the gun have to be revoked on the
Yeah.
PFA, it's been revoked by the police officer. Like at least I've seen it by my eyes.
We've seen it
I know, but I want to answer her specific question. When you get served with a PFA and you still have your guns, you're automatically violating the law. It says you must surrender your guns and it tells you where to surrender them. What she's asking is when they don't voluntarily surrender them, the sheriff goes out and they're very much behind on going to houses and searching them and removing the guns. If you're hit with a temporary PFA, you might be innocent of the underlying facts and circumstances because somebody could make up that you did something to them and get a temporary PFA. However, if you were served with a temporary PFA, you must obey it. It tells you right in there that you must surrender your firearms. So if you don't, that person is committing a crime. And if it involves a gun, like it does, I'll prosecute. They're in contempt of court. The court ordered you to surrender your firearms. I'm not waiting 18 months for the sheriff to go out to your house. I'm not worried about a backlog. If I find that you have a gun in your house or in your possession, and you were hit with a temporary, not even a permanent, of course I'm going to do it a permanent, but even a temporary one, you were ordered to surrender your guns, and you did it, you're going to get prosecuted for contempt of court. Period.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
So the courts, the criminal court system in Philadelphia is backlogged by 100,000 plus cases right now. On average, the courts process 75,000 cases a year. So how is persecuting people and how is like putting them in line to get prosecuted? How is that actually a viable process if we're so dramatically backlogged right now?
Okay. First of all, persecuting people is never a viable process. Never. Prosecuting them is. And you have to do is work with the board of judges. Just like you have to work with the police department, you have to ask the board of judges, who I already know, just from practicing law, which is why I qualify for this job because of my experience. I'm not getting into that now. You ask for a meeting with the board of judges, and you sit down with them and say, listen, we know that these people have these lawsuits because they got a sore neck from getting rear-ended with no damage to the back of their car. And these cases are backlogged, but so are the criminal cases. So I need you to take half of your judges hearing these bullshit civil cases and give them to us in the criminal court so we can get rid of these backlogs. You have these criminal courtrooms where there's 8 courtrooms per floor and half of them are empty. Get those judges out of those civil areas, bring them back over here, and you make deals. You gotta give to get. You gotta give to get. You don't call judges out on certain things as long as they're doing what you need them to do with these gun cases. It's called, you'll look the other way if you get what you want. What I want is safer streets. What the public wants is safer streets. You gotta bend the rules to get results. And you go, and it's basically blackmailing them. You tell the Board of Judges, you either do this or I'm gonna call you out to the public because now you're a public official. Use that wit. Use it. And say, hey, and that's another reason why I'm qualified. I'm 66 years old. This is my last hurrah. I'm not doing this to build my law practice. I want to get things in order. I want to create a legacy. I want my grandchildren to be proud of me. Tell this Board of Judges, you don't do this, we're going to call you out. And when it comes time for your retention election, the people are going to know. We need judges manning the criminal courtroom to get rid of this backlog. And I'm not here to persecute people. I'm here to prosecute them. And I'm here to put you in jail if you have an illegal firearm, and God forbid you're using an illegal firearm, you're going to be real sorry.
I just want to, when you say I want to bend the rules, but you also want to be the district attorney, that's kind of conflicting for you. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not.
How is that not conflicting?
No, it's not.
Are you going to uphold the law, or are you going to bend the law?
I'm going to put certain things on ice and then come back to them later on. Because you have to have priorities during an epidemic. We have an epidemic, and we got to stop making excuses.
Yeah,
we have to address it head on and concentrate on that because you can't solve everything overnight.
So what are your priorities?
Guns and gun violence. Period.
That's it?
That's my priorities.
So Lynn Abraham used the exact strategy that you're talking about during Operation Sunrise, right?
I didn't hear the first part of it.
Operation Sunrise, this is Lynn Abraham's strategy that she used in the open air markets on Kensington Avenue. What you're describing is incredibly similar to Lynn Abraham's process, right? It didn't work. So why would it work now?
I'm not Lynn Abraham.
Okay, that doesn't change the way things work, right?
When you're asking why something didn't work for her, I don't know why it didn't work for her.
Bro,
I know how it worked for me.
I use my key to unlock my car, right? You use your key to unlock your car, doesn't matter who's holding the key. The same process and procedure is what I'm talking about. It's not you, it's not Lynn, this isn't your ego, this isn't her ego. How are you trying to argue that incarcerating people and locking people up and prosecuting them in a backlogged, dysfunctional system is actually going to change anything? That has been used.
I'm going to tell you how it's going to change something.
Hasn't changed anything.
No citizen of Philadelphia ever got shot by an inmate while they're in jail. How do you like that?
Sir, you need help.
Yeah, I need help. I need votes. Right. Anybody here ever get shot by an inmate while they're in jail? Anybody ever hear somebody getting shot by an inmate while they're in jail? Has anybody heard me say I want to put somebody in jail that didn't commit a crime? Gotta wake up. If you really discussed it with this epidemic we're going under right now, then you gotta do something about it. You gotta get mad about it. You want to sit back and tinker around? I'm not your man.
There's 16-year-olds selling drugs in my corner. They're not my enemy. That kid's trying to eat.
Listen, from what I've heard you say, I know they're not your enemy. You're using them.
I'm sorry, but sir, can you explain to me what you mean? I don't understand.
It's very simple.
Yeah. That makes
If they're your
sense.
friends, then you must be buying their product. Because guess what? You're wrong. It's called disagreement. I disagree with you. I disagree with you. It does solve problems when people are incarcerated. Prison is needed. It's evil, but it's needed to protect the public safety. If somebody wants to shoot up our streets, I'm going to put them in jail so they can't fire the gun at somebody else.
If this strategy had ever worked in the history of ever, it'd be one thing. It's never has, it's never will. People are not doing this because they've like turned evil or something. People need
That's
to
your
eat,
opinion.
And
That's your opinion.
Yo,
So you keep fighting that good fight.
like, I know you're gonna lose, but like,
So-
you're still gonna be
so-
on.
What do you mean she's trying to eat?
People need to eat, right?
There's
Yeah,
plenty of
but
jobs, I see signs.
What's wrong with getting a real job?
So if I go outside, rob your phone, I'm trying to eat, because I want to sell your
I've
phone.
never heard of it. This whole campaign trail, I never heard anybody sympathize with a drug dealer because they need to eat.
So-
You're nuts!
So
Yeah.
Mr. Peruto, Mr.
They can get a real
Peruto, so
job.
how would you work with?
And by the way, she's been following me around at every one of these speeches I've been giving.
So you have a
And stalking me with these
relationship with-
ridiculous questions, so
So-
I'm
so
courtesy
how-
enough to call on her for those ridiculous questions because I think they're funny. And sometimes I need to lighten up my day.
Tell us how you would work with the Attorney General and Harrisburg so that we can deal with issues like, people buying guns from other counties and then they come here and they use them because this is a pro-Second Amendment state. It's just got to Pennsylvania.
There's no doubt about that. There's no
But,
doubt
but
about
so
that.
how would you, so obviously Larry doesn't get along with Josh. So how would you get along with Harrisburg and the Attorney General, or even the U.S. Attorney to kind of work these things, these task forces and
I don't-
whatever we can do to deal with the 400 plus people who were killed in homicides, not even counting suicides?
I think it's unfortunate that Josh Shapiro, who I actually know, is playing politics with these gun cases. But not so with the U.S. Attorney. And even the names that are surfacing by the Biden administration, appointing Democrats to be U.S. Attorney, these are pretty good names that he's coming up with. So I think it's going to be easy to work with the feds. And as the County of Philadelphia prosecutor, I'm going to work more with the feds than I am with the Attorney General, because the Attorney General really and truly, even though he has jurisdiction in Philadelphia, they really lay off of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Harrisburg and let the local DA handle those cases. And they handle cases, anything in between. And in those areas in between, you got gun nuts who, I mean, you're never going to take their guns from them, because it's like apple pie, Chevrolet, and my gun. They're keeping it. So I'm not going to have to work with the Attorney General so much, but the feds, oh yeah. You have to work hand in hand with them. Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. And usually the person who is in law enforcement and U.S. Attorney's office, I don't care who appointed them, they usually have Republican thinking when it comes to law and order. And with the other issues, I don't have a quarrel with that. I'm not here to talk about abortion. I'm not here to talk about gay rights. I'm not here to talk about this and that. Other issues that a mayor faces or a governor faces, I'm here to prosecute criminals.
But the DA has another job than prosecute criminals. He has another job, or she.
What is that?
What's the rest of your job for the DA? What's the rest of the job for the district attorney in your eyes? What's the rest of
In
it?
my eyes?
Yeah, because you're an experienced attorney.
In my eyes,
Yeah.
the chief job that he or she has to do is seek justice. And if justice dictates that Joe Blow needs to be incarcerated, then incarcerate him. If justice dictates that Joe Blow should go free, set him free. If it means probation, give him probation. It's called using your discretion, using your best tools, using your best education, surrounding yourself with the best minds, and trying to do right every day when you get up and have that first morning cup of coffee. You want to start that day by saying, give me the peace and the wisdom to do the right thing today. And that's all you can do.
And you would have done the right thing by that little lady you were kid who was beaten up in West Philly by different police officers, or kid taken from her?
Would I have prosecuted the police officers?
Yeah, would you do that?
Beyond a doubt. Beyond a doubt. I'm not here to protect dirty cops. I'm here to protect the citizens of Philadelphia, not dirty cops. And the police officers union, they have not come out for me. The individual cops have. I'm being supported by police. But have you seen an endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police? Have you seen any money go into my coffers from the Fraternal Order of Police?
Right.
You have not, because I cannot make a deal and promise anything I can't deliver, because that would be a lie. I am not going to be beholden to anybody. Nobody's given me contributions. I have not accepted them from anyone who could possibly influence me.
Anybody else have any questions for him?
When it comes to gun violence, like sometimes we focus too much on the gun. What about the ammunition? Should we have a limit on how much ammunition people should buy every month? Because sometimes people buy them and they sell them in the street, genuine drug, money.
Obviously, if a case comes to you and you know somebody's doing that, they got to be prosecuted. Right? It goes without saying. Is that going to be more difficult to investigate that case? Yes, it is. It's going to be more difficult. So you just have your druthers. You got to pick your battles. Is ammunition a big part of the problem? Of course it is. You can't shoot a gun without ammunition. But that presents a whole host of other problems, because you don't have to have all of the stopgaps that you have to buy a gun. And I gotta tell you, a big problem we have is boyfriends preying on their girlfriends to buy them a gun. They gotta know. You have a budget. You have a budget with the district attorney's office. City council gives you a lot of money. You could use part of that money to advertise what you're going to do in certain areas. You could use the internet to enlighten the public what you're going to do in certain areas. I don't want Mary Smith coming in and saying, well, I didn't know if I bought a gun for my boyfriend I was going to go to jail. Well, you should have known, because we advertise it. It's all over the internet. And every time I get a chance to speak, I'm going to make sure the public does know that. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I know I get a little nuts at times, but I've always been nuts.
That's West Philly.
Hey, bro. I saw somebody take a TV.
You have a restroom here?
And make it,
Yeah.
metal.
Yeah, they should
They
make
made
it.
it. They made one. You couldn't, I was detected or anything. And it had to do
So,
That's why they clamped on.
They took everybody's guns and now they're just beating everybody with the head. And now you're not saying you can't beat.
I don't know. It's hard to take
No, they did. Everybody turned in their guns. And now they're just, it's becoming authoritarian. You know, it's becoming very bad out there. I mean, it's all over the news. You see, the police is out there arresting you just for looking at it. They're doing whatever they want. Governments are, they're taking advantage of the COVID crisis, and they're hurting people all over the world. I've seen it firsthand in Central America. I've seen it firsthand in the Caribbean, and it's happening all over the world. It's happening here. Our right to be involved.
Pennsylvania's county board has been bottom-line and paid for by Philadelphia's
Yeah, that's
thanks for your service. No problem.
Let me tell you,
Are we wrapping up?
yeah.
So that was. Well, there's always somebody.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I don't want to take the spark to start a fire, and I'm listening to you. I wasn't ignoring you, I was asking.
And DeFantis is going to speak on crime and violence, and Mr. Charles Squilla is going to speak on.
I'm a former judge of elections in the city.
Oh.
I have watched.
I don't know. Doris, you want me to stop or do you want me to continue? Continue.
Thank you.
Well, that's what's interesting is, I mean, in the Coast Guard, we're actually always in our unit, we're always in battle. And yet we don't get any battle tax. We don't get any hazardous duties, we don't get anything. And yet we're always in combat, because that's our job. Where the other branches are in combat with them, but we're out Well, the Ghosties ran all the, in Vietnam, the Ghosties ran all the Indian Waterway. It was all Coast Guard. People don't know that. Because during that time, they were active in the Navy. Right. Yeah, but Coast Guard was in Afghanistan, Coast Guard was in Iraq.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you about. So they
Wherever everyone else. But that's only when the combat has. But what about there on the high 37th police station in Brooklyn, and we're getting shot at? We're in combat there, but we're not getting any. Because that's our job. Because you're the only. Exactly, well, they are. Actually, most of our personnel now are federal law enforcement.
You never did nothing. Died here. You gotta watch it.
So are we going to speak or not? Who's going to speak or not? It doesn't matter to me. Oh, it doesn't matter.
You had a watch.
Well, that's what and I hope it's
They were the best.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for your patience. I'd like to gain your attention for Mr. Hector Fuentes who's going to speak to us on crime and violence. And just what we all need to know. And please, it's straight talk. So I have your attention. Well, I think he'll gain your attention anyway. Can we give a small, can we give a big applause for Mr. Hector Fuentes?
Good evening, people. It's a pleasure being here. Even though it's a small crowd, I think that goes to the point why our city is in the dire straits that it is, because our communities are really not involved in what they need to be involved in.
I can't hear.
Just yesterday, just actually this morning, I saw a video through the internet in which they were jumping on top of a police vehicle. They were doing spin outs in Center City. I believe it was in Center City or one of the major streets. Spin outs around the police car. And basically, that's what this city has become. It's just total lawlessness. And many of you would probably think that we need to address the crime in our streets. I beg to differ. I think we need to address the crime in our political establishment. I think we need to wake up. I think we need to realize that if we had the right leaders, if we had the right people, our streets, our communities our homes would be safe. They have left all these prisoners out into the street. They're not prosecuting. You've had political leaders throughout the country make it so that criminals could come out of jail, which is not a bad thing, but criminals could come out of jail and they can get any job they want. You're not allowed to ask about their criminal history. They're making it so that the criminal has more opportunity than the law-abiding citizen. And now the people in jail are actually the good citizens of this country. We're in jail in our homes, in our communities. We're being held hostage by the drugs in the streets. We're being held hostage by drug dealers. It's come to a point that we have to realize that we need to wake up. When a drug dealer flaunts his wealth, when the drug dealer flaunts his trade, when a drug dealer peddles his wares in the streets openly, and the good citizens of this city, of this state, of this country, have to be careful on what they say. They have to be careful not to be called a snitch. They have to be careful not to be seen talking to law enforcement. That is a tragedy. That is the problem that we have in this country. We need to stand up one person at a time, one street at a time, one neighborhood at a time, one city at a time, and we need to wake up and start enforcing our laws. And while we have all this crime in our streets, while we're worrying about the guy selling drugs in the corner, while we're worrying about the guy that just got murdered down the street, we're not worrying about the fact that this country is being ripped off at all levels of government by corrupt politicians. And I think that's the biggest crime that we as a nation, as a people, need to address. If we address that particular aspect of crime, I believe that we will solve everything else. And I think if we realize that these people have allowed this to happen for so long, they allowed this city to be, not only this city, but all the cities throughout this country to be ransacked during the so-called riots. They allowed, I had police officers come up to me. I had a business in Kensington Avenue. I had police officers come up to me and say, hey, I want to apologize to you because we can't help you. I had police officers come to me and say, we want to do something, but we can't. We're told not to. If that continues to happen, where are we going to go as a nation? Where are we going to go as a city, as a state, as a people? So we need to come together, and we need to break the vicious cycle of dependency that we ourselves created by voting for a particular party, whichever party it may be, because some cities are Republican, some cities are Democrat, and they continue to vote for that political establishment, and that political establishment has destroyed those cities or communities. And unfortunately, right now, if we look throughout the country, throughout the entire country, if we look at the facts, let's put politics aside. If we look at the facts, we don't have people moving into California. We have people running away from California. We don't have people moving into New York. We have people running away from New York. We don't have people moving into Detroit. We have people running away from Detroit. The reason I'm saying that is liberal policies have destroyed this country. And they're destroying it one great city at a time. We need to wake up. We need to wake up our family members. We need to wake up our friends. And we need to realize that the importance of voting is the only way we're going to stop crime. It's not going to happen by calling 911 because they're not going to come. It's not going to happen by calling your politician because they don't care. It's going to happen by voting these corrupt criminal establishments out of office. And if we look at Philadelphia, for instance, which is where we're at, on almost a yearly basis, we have a convicted or indicted politician on all levels of government, whether it's state, local, or federal. It's a joke. And once he gets indicted, then another career criminal politician comes in and takes his place. Because every single last one of them has to go and beg for the favor of who I call the Don of the criminal enterprise that I call the Democratic Party of Philadelphia. They have to go and ask Bob Brady for his blessing. The same person who gave the blessing to every convicted politician in the city. And we need to open up our eyes and stop voting for these people. They don't care about you. While you were at home, stuck in a pandemic, they were collecting their salary. They did nothing for you. They didn't protect you from the riots. They didn't protect your businesses. They didn't protect your communities. They didn't do it then, and they won't do it now. That is the best way to fight crime, is to get up and vote these criminals out of office. That's all I have to say to you guys. Thank you.
He came a very long way to be here tonight to speak to everyone.
I stopped on vacation to the Caribbean for this.
See that? He stopped his vacation in the Caribbean to be here tonight. So even though we, normally get a very big crowd, we got a good crowd, but we got YouTube, and this is going to be heard, and the truth, the straight talk is going to be out there, and it's needed. So unfortunately, your favorite trash man, as everyone knows him in Philadelphia, or if you haven't, you will. He used to work for the sanitation department and left because of how things are supposed to be done in the sanitation department, he says, and they're not. One small thing I'll say, I know they have a hard job. Trust me, I do. I don't want to do it. But there's apparently, just hearing that they're supposed to have a broom inside of the truck, and then it's not there, as many we see, and then they're supposed to sweep when they drop things out of the truck when they're putting it in. But supposedly, they're just not following their contract. And trust me, I have respect for every one of them. But he says they're just, you're paying for it, and there's other things he wanted to say to us, and explain that things could be done differently in the sanitation department from his experience. He got he didn't get the link to the event. He wanted to be able to speak through Zoom somehow or something, but he couldn't make it. Look him up, your favorite trash man. He wants to get the city empowered to be able to keep it clean and tell you how to do it. So he couldn't be here. And again, Sherry Hankala also couldn't be here to speak on homelessness due to a very personal matter. She definitely couldn't be part. But we have Charles Steckler is here, and he would love to speak to everyone regarding voting and the importance of it. So can we give him a hand, please?
I was hoping for a left hand.
Oh, I didn't get that. What was that?
I was hoping for a left hand. I'm only joking. Thank you. I don't need a microphone. I got a big old mouth anyway. So, first of all, I want to make it real clear. I do not currently reside in the city of Philadelphia. I was born and raised here. This is my heart. These are my people. And it's important. So why am I up here speaking about voting if I don't live here? Well, for 6 years I was judge of elections in this city. For 6 years I watched the voting system. I watched how it was manipulated. I watched how it was controlled. I watched how a specific party is able to get what they want by doing what they do. And what I'm here to do is, hopefully, and I know we only have a small amount of people, but I say this all the time when I speak all around the country on other topics. It only takes a spark to start a fire, okay? One person in here can start a spark that can start an inferno in your neighborhood and change things. One of the biggest challenges we face in this city, and I've talked to, just as a matter of fact, I was talking to a judge of elections out there, you, gentleman right there, you're in here now. And I keep in touch with numerous judge of elections around the city. And it's almost, and you're current one, so I'm going to ask you this, because it's been a while since I've been up here. Are you still finding that the majority of the people that take the time to register don't come out and vote?
At the last primaries, let's say, I had at my ward 523 registered people to go elect. I had 46 show up.
There it is. So the numbers haven't changed. So the thing is, how do we get? Go ahead.
One quick thing. There's registration forms on the table if anyone in here needs one.
Or if you know someone who needs it. But
Yes.
it isn't even about registering. See, registering to vote doesn't do a damn thing. It's voting that does it. We've got to instill in people to understand the power that they are not applying by not voting. Because every vote does count. That trash man or that whatever the person running for dog catcher, if there happens to be one, like this election, it's all judges. But and then the DA, everything else is judges and the DA.
Yeah, but how many people actually do know that you can elect the judge? Not even all the judges do know that there can be elected.
Right. Well, and where I live in Monroe County, you don't even have to have any law degree. You can become a judge. You can become a judge, and it's really weird up there. But
So this is general information.
But anyway, but what I'm saying is, if you know somebody that registers to vote and they're not voting, encourage them to vote, or ask them not to register, because it only adversely affects things. So if you take the time to register to vote, please get out there and vote. I don't care who you vote for. Vote for who your conscience tells you is the better person. Please don't vote by party. Vote by whoever you think. Okay? And remember, when you vote, you're actually casting an opportunity for that person to become your employee. See, because our government officials, these people we vote for, are employees. What do I mean? How do they get paid? They get paid by what? The tax dollar that you spend, that you pay, that they take from you. They don't even give you a chance to give it to them. They take it right from you. So we should be interviewing these people. We should be understanding what they stand for. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add something. A lot of people saying that why do I have to find out who they are if I'm paying my taxes and they have to spend it properly? The answer for it is very simple. If you get a flat tire, do you put your money into the glove box and waiting for the tire to inflate, or are you looking for a mechanic or someone to fix this tire? Very simple. So.
And that's what I'm saying. When we're going to vote, we're actually going and we're saying, hey, I want to hire you. I'm willing to hire you because I believe you can do what I need you to do. So many people vote just because, I'm supposed to vote because this is what I'm told to do, but they don't even take the time to know who they're running, who's running, what they stand for, what they're willing to do. And I mean, I heard Chuck Peruto up here get beat up because he's on the Republican ticket. He did it because he knew that if he ran on a Democratic ticket, he stood as much chance as the gentleman who ran on a Democratic ticket. So he knew that in order to have a chance to get on the ticket, at least make a change, he had to do that. Go ahead.
I just want to add, when you don't vote, you're giving that vote away.
Right.
Because who knows what happens behind closed doors? They know who didn't vote. They got that book in front of them. Oh, Joe from this street, Mary from this.
The judge of elections.
10 more minutes, they ain't here, they ain't coming. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
What's the
That happens.
That's what happens.
That's what happens.
So then, as the judge of elections, and what I would suggest that you do, what I did in South Philly, it worked, is I went out to those who I knew I saw hadn't voted, and I knocked on their doors. I sent my team out during election day, and I just said, hey, just remind you, today's election day. Very simple.
But did you leave the word unattended?
No, I sent my team out. I wouldn't leave the word
Okay.
unattended because now I just violated what I'm supposed to be there doing.
Okay.
But you send people out knocking on doors. You don't have to tell them, hey, by the way, today's election day. If they bother to register and they're not voting, that's a lot of silenced voices. I know when I was here for Obama's second round, only 48%. That's a huge percentage show up. 48% voter turnout. Okay, which is 48 out of 100. Sounds great, but that means 52, which is majority, didn't do a dang thing. So the majority's voices were silenced. What do we need to do? How do we empower people who took the time to register to vote? Registering to vote don't do a damn thing unless you actually get in there and vote. Okay, so what do we do? How do we do that? I think we have to try to figure out a way to encourage people to get out there. And, what's that?
Pay them. He said pay them money. Problem is the government already pays the money for the vote, so.
Well,
Don't you
again,
worry.
when you are voting for somebody, you are casting saying, I think this person's worth hiring. I'm willing to pay them with my tax dollar, so I'm willing to hire them. Is this somebody you want to hire? You know, and then unfortunately, as we all know, or I'll speak for myself, I think some of you will agree. A lot of our elections, we end up with, oh my God, I got bad and badder, you know, so I got to pick the better of two evils. You know, so how do we fix that? Well, we start becoming candidates ourselves. Now again, I told you I don't live down here. I moved up to the Poconos after coming back to Philadelphia, and I want to share another personal story when I'm done this part. But it's starting to run for office yourself. I'm actually in November, I'm running for the school board where I live. Okay, I sit on the Children and Youth Advisory Board.
Philadelphia is appointed. Like
I already know that. I lived in Philadelphia. I fought the school board when they had the millions of dollars to put money into a prison, and yet they had to cut back services at the school because they didn't have enough money. Why don't you transfer those millions over to the school and not tell our kids that don't worry, we're going to have a place to put you up later. But that's the thing. But it's about, you know, good leadership. This young man right here, you had another young man with you, your nephew today. Bringing them out, having them here, hearing what's going on. They don't have to agree or disagree, but empowering them to say, hey, you can become a political leader. You can get your name in the hat, or you can hold those accountable. And once they get in, hold this guy, Peruto. If he wins, hold him accountable for what he says he's going to do. And if they don't do it, call him out on it. And I don't mean call him out and go knock on the door. Seth Williams, and I'm going to get into my story here. And so that's what I have to say about voting. Encourage people not just to register to vote, because registering doesn't do a damn thing unless you actually vote. So encourage people to get out there and vote. As judge of elections, encourage your people, before you already know as a judge of elections who in your area generally hasn't been voting. So get some people on your team. What?
Will not be considered as a soliciting when you're actually taking the private information, sending a team to encourage them to vote. And
okay, so why do you have the list if you're not going to? I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just saying, hey, I'm encouraging election days coming up, vote. Why have a list? And why give you a list to tell you who's voting? You know, why have a percentage? How can we fix the percentage? We can look for ways that aren't okay. Let's say it is soliciting. What are you soliciting? You're not saying I'm vote for who. You're not saying vote for what party. You're simply doing, in my opinion, as a judge of elections, my job was to try to get these people to come out and vote. So we have better numbers. So maybe we can actually have what the people want, and not what a system who's been running this city for 6 decades and kept it where it's at and suppressed people and oppressed people in a better position. I mean, I've taken things to the League of Women Voters. I've taken the Committee of 70 that I've witnessed, and it's frustrating. But it's just, I'm not saying it's the only idea, but it's an idea. I mean, like I said, I don't know. Is it soliciting?
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. This is why I have asked.
Well, here's what I learned too. It's better to ask for forgiveness and permission. So just do it. You find out you're not supposed to do it, you don't do it anymore. Say, okay, sorry about that. I won't do it again. You know, you're not telling them who to vote for. You're just encouraging them to vote. If we can encourage them to register to vote, why can't we encourage them to vote?
Can I ask a question that I know there's very strong-minded, smart, intelligent people that know things. Anything about wrongdoings in the voting system that can be put out there publicly for all to know? Does anybody have anything that they could share?
Well, I just found out today the one thing that I knew.
It's happened in the past. It's just been corrupt in the voting system for years.
Yeah, well, I just found out, and you were out there with me, Roman, you heard this. I just found out today the one thing I knew what was going on in the city was and I know we're in a union hall if you're taping. Hello, I'm Charlie Stecker. I'll give you my address if you want to come visit. That the IBEW, under Johnny Dock, every election shut itself down and sent all these people out to pick up people to take them to vote. It sounds great up front, except these people were telling them who to vote for. So you were getting all these people just walking in magically going, I vote for this person because what I was told to do, as opposed to being informed. That was a huge problem for me. I addressed it in South Philly, and we cleaned it up while I was there. Unfortunately, the young lady that took over after me mysteriously was found dead in her house just a few months ago.
I think one of the things that we need to work on, and I think I'm going to talk to you about this, maybe I'll give you my information. Being a person that loves the city but doesn't live in the city, I think we need to get politicians that are out of the city on the state level and try to cut funding to all these nonprofit agencies in the city which are nothing but a piggy bank for the Democratic Party. I mean, that's all these people do is just, you know, like, I did the math on one housing development. They spent about $150,000 per unit so that this organization can build the units, and then the state is responsible for the rest of the life of that unit to pay rent to that organization. Now, would it not have been cheaper to just buy 3 houses and give them away to people, and you don't have to pay rent ever again?
Well, I don't know if you remember back in the 70s when Philly did that buy a dollar a house. You bought the house for $1, you got it up to code, and it was your house. And it was really successful back then.
I just think that.
So I don't have those answers. I'm not here running for a political position. I'm simply saying, get out and vote.
Yeah.
Don't just register. Registering without voting is a waste of ink and waste of time. Sometimes you have to color inside the lines, you know, and so if it's an area you're not sure of, I've learned that for me, it was better to ask for forgiveness and permission, because if I find out I'm not allowed to do it, now I can't do it. If I don't know if I'm allowed to do it, I do it, and then I'm told, no, okay, I wasn't aware. You know, you're not breaking the law, you're not going to go to jail for going out and not going to do encouraging somebody to vote. I would think you're actually going to be, oh, that's a great idea, you know, because we push so hard to register to vote, but we don't push hard to actually vote. So that's just what I have to say about that. Now, why am I supporting? You know, it's funny. Why would I even begin to support Mr. Peruto when you know my backstory? Mr. Peruto's father represented the woman that murdered my brother, and Mr. Peruto's father got the woman released, and got the woman never even saw a jail cell. Okay. Why am I supporting Mr. Peruto with that? Because I know Mr. Peruto's father did his job. It was the district attorney's office in 1967 when my brother was murdered. They didn't do their job. It's the district attorney's office that in 2011, under the leadership of former DA Seth Williams, that didn't do his job when I located records for my brother after 44 years of being told they didn't exist. They wouldn't release them to me. It's in Philadelphia. It's documented in the Philadelphia Weekly newspaper. If you read it, it'll tell you District Attorney Seth Williams says neither Charles nor anyone will ever get these records. So the DA's office has been failing not only me, but every member of this, every person in this city for decades now, and we keep accepting it. Is Chuck the only answer? I'm sure he isn't. But right now, what are we facing? You know, can he be short-tempered? Yeah, he can be. But what are we facing? What are we looking at? You know, what do we have right now? So I can't endorse anybody because I'm an executive director of a nonprofit, and we're not allowed to endorse, and that I know is for a fact. So this is no endorsement, plus I'm not going to be down here voting anyway, because I'm up in the mountains. But I would say support who you think is best, and maybe what you look at is neither of them is anybody you would want. Well, then you got to pick what is the worst, the lesser of two evils. And if what you have right now isn't working, what's the definition of insanity? Continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. You know, Krasner's not doing anything for our city. I love this place. I'm actually contemplating coming back here and possibly running for city council at large position sometime in the future. I'll see where that leads. But I just encourage them, get out, encourage people that are registered to vote. You don't even have to do it as a judge of elections. Encourage your committeemen, your committee ladies in that area to do it.
Question. I don't know if you know, or does anybody else here know, other than the DA in November, there's other people that...
There's gonna be additions to the Constitution, Pennsylvania Constitution, like on legalizing marijuana, for example.
Where are those questions at? Because I pulled up the ballot on my way here to look it over, and all I saw was judges, I saw no questions.
I can read them out loud. I got them actually pulled up here.
Because I was looking for the ballot because I wanted to know what was on it. And I'm like, it's all judges and the DA.
Okay, so ballot question number 1. Shall the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to call upon the Pennsylvania General Assembly and the governor to pass legislation that would decriminalize, regulate, and tax the use and sale to adults aged 21 years or older of cannabis or for non-medical purposes?
And here's another interesting thing about Pennsylvania politics.
Huh?
There's more?
Yeah, there is. Hold on. But I want to go back to that one. Here's another thing. You just addressed, that's a Philadelphia. They made that Philadelphia only. Well, Philadelphia. It's really weird how Philadelphia is a part of the state of Pennsylvania, but yet Philadelphia is just treated as if it's its own state within a state, its own government within a state. There's so many things.
It's a class 1 city, so it's a bit different.
I understand, but
So you want to hear the number 2?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Shall the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to establish and define the function of a Department of Fleet Services headed by the Commissioner to manage all city-owned motor vehicles and city programs concerning alternative vehicle fuel initiatives?
Going over to electric cars.
That's question number 2. Question number 3. Shall the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to revise a provision related to the civil service system to allow the personnel director to determine the number of people on eligible list for which a hiring or promotion decisions may be made, and determine the number of times a person may be passed over a remaining eligible such as a list, all based on the position and the needs of the civil service program.
That's a pretty heavy question.
Yeah, I know, and there is also, it comes in a plain language. I can post it, I can give you the links as well. So like, if you are watching this stream, most likely it's gonna be in the description for the video. But also, question number 4. Shall the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter be amended to provide for the mandatory annual appropriation for the Housing Trust Fund?
What is the housing trust fund?
The description is 2 pages long.
Right.
And that was your question number 4.
And there's a challenge. People here, and full disclosure, I'm the executive director of the Monroe County's only HUD certified and approved housing counseling agency. I'm the board president as well. So when it comes to housing, that's dear to my heart. Your agency down here in Nueva Esperanza is actually who I work through getting my HUD money. Okay, so I'm attached here to Philadelphia through that.
I work with Section 8, I know your pain.
Right, so when you look at that, you go, okay, people don't understand that, but yet we're asking them to go vote on something.
But we don't know.
We don't know what it is.
It's got to be in a plain language, and it's got to be, if you're voting yes, such and such will occur. If you're voting no,
Exactly.
such and such will occur.
Right.
So that's how it's supposed to be delivered. And when you're seeing that, it's
You
like
don't know
yes
what
or no. Does anyone have a coin?
Right, exactly. I thank you all for letting me be a non-Philadelphia citizen, come down here and share some things with you, and have an opportunity. And I never believe that everything's lost. I believe no matter what, we can bring it back. It only takes a spark to start a fire, and each one of you is a spark. And I just thank you, and I thank you for loving our city. I thank you for those of you who aren't born here, but came here and have grown a love for this city, and I want to see it become better. I thank you. You know, it's not. We don't have to be a native here. We don't have to be a Native American. You know, being born here. We can be people who come here from all different diversions, different places and diverse places, and come together so that we all can live together in unity and oneness in this city of brotherly love, and as we've added in the last many years, and sisterly affection. So, you know, I just thank you for all of you, and, you know, just thank you. That's all. So, encourage the voters to vote.
All right, come back to Philly and be a fire starter.
Yeah, I had to ask that because a lot of the things with voting, when you go, you're hearing that there's a DA, you know, you're supposed to vote on DA, but nobody knows anything about the judges or about the ballot questions, and it's totally, so I was glad that was somehow put onto the Zoom. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're leaving, yeah. But yeah, hopefully, you know, there will be something in Philadelphia where they're going to break that down to make it simpler for the citizens to understand what's happening at an election and with the ballots. So I know a lot of people feel that way, and you go in there and you're blindfolded when it comes to election. Like you go behind the curtain, I don't know any of these people. So I think we need to educate ourselves on that somehow before election day. But thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. That's all I can say. We just need to keep empowering ourselves. Thank you for coming and go home safely.
I like that. That's sharp.
God bless.
That's sharp. I like that. Thank you so much.